The Literacy Landscape in New Brunswick. Refresher Module Number 1 for the Tutor Training Program of Laubach Literacy New Brunswick. In this presentation, we will define literacy and provide you with some literacy statistics. We'll provide you with a mini snapshot of the adult literacy landscape in New Brunswick with respect to who is doing what and why. And we will review Laubach Literacy New Brunswick's role, its mission and values, and its strategic plan. Defining literacy. Literacy is the ability to read, write, speak, and listen, as well as to use numeracy and technology at a level that enables people to express and understand ideas and opinions, to make decisions and solve problems, to achieve their goals, and to participate fully in their community and in a wider society. One of the main organizations examining Canada's literacy skills compared to other countries is the Program for the International Assessment of Adult Competencies. This is done through the OECD, or the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, of which Canada is a member. Their recent reporting also looked at the competencies within each Canadian province. For this report, they are looking at 3 types of literacy. Prose or document literacy, which will just be called literacy for the purposes of this reporting. Respondents are measured for their ability to engage with written text, print-based and digital, and thereby participate in society, achieve goals, and develop their knowledge and potential. This requires accessing and identifying and processing information from a wide variety of texts that relate to a range of settings. For numeracy, respondents are measured for their ability to engage with mathematical information in order to manage the mathematical demands of a range of situations in everyday life. This requires understanding mathematical content and ideas, quantities, numbers, dimensions, relationships, and the representation of that content, objects, pictures, diagrams, and graphs. PS-TRE, or what we often refer to as digital literacy. In this area, respondents are measured for their ability to use digital technology, communication tools, and networks to acquire and evaluate information, communicate with others, and perform practical tasks. This requires understanding technology, the hardware, software applications, commands, and functions, and how to solve problems with it. Measurement is divided into 2 different but related parameters. First, familiarity with computers and how to use them, and next, the ability to solve problems commonly encountered in a technology-rich world. Let's look at literacy proficiency levels. To start with, let's talk about what the report has to say about literacy. 4% of Canadians scored below a level 1. This was similar in New Brunswick, which also scored 4%. 13% of Canadians can successfully perform tasks at level 1. In New Brunswick, that number is 15%. So at that point, at level 1, a respondent will have few basic skills and a great difficulty with text. 32% of Canadians can successfully perform tasks at level 2. This means they have limited skills, cannot read well, and can deal only with material that is simply and clearly laid out. For New Brunswick, this number is a little bit higher at 35%. At level 3, a respondent will have basic skill level, but may have problems with more complex tasks. Level 3 is considered the minimum skill level needed for successful participation in society. 38% of Canadians can perform at this level, while only 36% of New Brunswickers can. Levels 4 and 5. These respondents have high levels of literacy with a wide range of reading skills and many strategies for dealing with complex materials. Individuals at this level can meet most reading demands and can handle new reading challenges. 13% of Canadians can successfully perform tasks at level 4, with 1% of Canadians performing at level 5. For New Brunswick, we have a combined average of 10% in levels 4 and 5. Numeracy proficiency levels. 6% of Canadians and 7% of New Brunswickers scored below a level 1. 17% of Canadians can successfully perform tasks at a level 1, which means they can carry out basic mathematical processes in common, concrete contexts where the mathematical content is explicit with little text, tasks usually require simple one-step or simple processes involving counting, sorting, performing basic arithmetic operations, and understanding simple percents. In New Brunswick, 21% of New Brunswickers perform at a level 1. Skills at a level 2 include identifying and acting on mathematical information and ideas embedded in a range of common contexts where the mathematical content is fairly explicit or visual. The tasks tend to require the application of 2 or more steps or processes. 32% of Canadians can successfully perform tasks at a level 2. In New Brunswick, that number is 35%. Level 3. Tasks at this level require the respondent to understand mathematical information that may be less explicit. Tasks require several steps and may involve the choice of problem-solving strategies and relevant processes. 33% of Canadians can successfully perform tasks at a level 3. In New Brunswick, that percent is 29. Levels 4 and 5. Tasks at this level require the respondent to understand a broad range of mathematical information that may be complex, abstract, or embedded in unfamiliar contexts. These tasks often involve undertaking multiple steps and choosing relevant problem-solving strategies and processes. In Canada, 12% can successfully perform tasks at a level 4 and 5. In New Brunswick, that combined average for both levels 4 and 5 is only 8%. Digital proficiency levels. 15% of Canadians and 15% of New Brunswickers scored below a level 1. Below level 1 means tasks are based on well-defined problems involving the use of only one function within a generic interface to meet one explicit criteria, without any categorical, inferential reasoning, or transforming of information. Few steps are required and no sub-goal has to be generated. 30% of Canadians and 31% of New Brunswickers can perform at a level 1 proficiency of digital literacy. At this level, tasks typically require the use of widely available and familiar technology applications, such as email software or a web browser. There is little or no navigation required to access the information or commands required to solve the problem. 29% of Canadians can successfully perform tasks at level 2. At this level, tasks typically require the use of both generic and specific technology applications. For instance, respondents may have to make use of a novel online form. Some navigation across pages and applications is required to solve the problem. Level 3. 7% of Canadians and 5% of New Brunswickers can perform at a level 3. At this level, tasks typically require the use of both generic and more specific technology applications. Some navigation across pages and applications is required to solve the problem. The use of tools, example, a sort function in Excel, is needed to make the progress toward the solution. It should also be noted that 19% of Canadians were non-respondent to this part of the test, either because they did not have any previous computer skills or they opted out from this part of the assessment. That percentage was higher, with 23% of New Brunswickers choosing not to participate in the digital literacy assessment. So let's look at these results as an overview. Canada ranks at the OECD average in literacy, below the average in numeracy, and above the average in digital literacy. Canada has a higher proportion of its population at the highest proficiency levels in literacy and digital literacy compared to the OECD average. Canada also has a larger proportion of adults at the lowest proficiency levels in all 3 domains, literacy, numeracy, and digital literacy, compared to the OECD average. What are some highlights we can take away from the report? Literacy and numeracy scores are highest at ages 25 to 34. Individuals aged 16 to 34 are the most proficient in digital literacy. Despite higher levels of proficiency in digital literacy among youth, 9% display proficiency only at the lowest level. Women and men display similar proficiencies in literacy and digital literacy, men having higher numeracy skills than women. Higher education is also associated with greater literacy, numeracy, and digital literacy skills. Also from the report, we found the employed population displays greater information processing skills than the unemployed or not in the labor force populations. Workers in managerial and professional occupations display greater information processing skills than workers in other types of occupations. Literacy and numeracy skills of unemployed and not in the labor force populations were very similar. However, not being in the labor force is associated with lower digital literacy skills compared to those who are unemployed. This graph shows the average skills of population ages 16 to 65 by age group in Canada during this 2012 assessment. This shows the same looking at our numeracy skills. And finally, this is the comparative distribution of proficiency levels of population age 16 to 65 for digital literacy. Literacy organizations in New Brunswick. Who is working on improving literacy in New Brunswick? Well, there's actually a number of organizations throughout the province, too many to mention. Some, like those above, may specialize more in adult literacy, but there are those that support children and youth as well, and those who assist with GED and GED prep. Laubach Literacy New Brunswick. Dr. Frank Laubach's techniques for tutoring adults became a program incorporated as Laubach Literacy International in 1955, which encouraged and supervised the development of literacy programs worldwide. In that same year, World Literacy of Canada was incorporated, and Dr. Frank Laubach was proclaimed its honorary president. The Laubach training approach is based on Dr. Laubach's work as a missionary who became involved in teaching English while in the Philippines during the 1930s. The Each One Teach One program has been used to teach approximately 60 million people to read in their own language in more than 300 countries. Laubach Literacy has been in Canada since the first tutor training workshop was held in Lunenburg County, Nova Scotia in 1970. A few years later, several literacy councils in the Atlantic provinces were formed. The first council in New Brunswick was established in St. John in 1975. After more than a decade of pioneering work, the first Laubach Literacy New Brunswick was formed in 1981 and incorporated in 1983. In 2021, Laubach Literacy New Brunswick celebrated its 40th anniversary. Today, there are very few Laubach Literacy councils still in existence across Canada. Ontario and Newfoundland, in particular, are partners for Laubach Literacy New Brunswick. We also partner greatly with the US organization, Pro-Literacy, who had its start as a Laubach Literacy organization as well. So how is Laubach Literacy New Brunswick organized? We have a provincial board of volunteers. The board governs the actions and interests of Laubach Literacy New Brunswick as a provincial organization, determining our strategic direction and priorities, and monitoring our operational finances and activities in relation to the defined strategy. Board committees are formed as needed to provide advice and support for the organization's operation and administration, or for short-term projects. Laubach Literacy New Brunswick is staffed by a full-time executive director who has extensive experience working with nonprofits and directing communications, project and event management, and community engagement. We also have a part-time volunteer coordinator that supports our affiliated councils, their tutors, and boards. Laubach Literacy New Brunswick tutoring services are delivered through community-based affiliated Laubach Literacy Councils. Each council has its own volunteer board to govern the actions and interests of Laubach literacy in that area. Funded in part by grants from Laubach Literacy New Brunswick, they also raise funds to further support individual community-based programs. Laubach Literacy New Brunswick provides tutoring resources and tutor training for all the councils throughout New Brunswick. As well, it provides continuing education for all volunteers. Laubach Literacy New Brunswick also assists the councils as needed with community engagement, fund development, and marketing. Our mission is to provide programs that improve the literacy skills of New Brunswickers. Our values are as follows. We recognize that literacy is a basic social value. We recognize the right of all New Brunswickers to improve their skills, to access learning opportunities, and enjoy a better quality of life. We believe that it is the right of the learner to receive a consistent, quality service. We offer learning plans that are contextually relevant to a learner's goals. We will maintain consistent literacy training standards and behave in all matters in a way that trust is preserved. We value the dedication and responsiveness from all Laubach Literacy New Brunswick volunteers and staff. We engage with trusted partners and supporters to achieve our purpose, and we seek the perspective of our stakeholders in the development of programs and services. At this point in our organization's evolution, 40 years on, and to ensure the future leads to even greater success, Laubach Literacy undertook a comprehensive strategic planning process in 2020-2021. That included engaging with all of our stakeholders, both internal and external. A strategic plan is important because it tells us how to get from where we are today to the future we want to create. It keeps us focused on the areas that will have the greatest impact in achieving our mission and help us reach even greater numbers of learners each year. Aligning our work to advance these strategies and being able to measure our success on a provincial level will allow us to better address the literacy challenges and opportunities in our province and secure our role as a partner to government as they work to create a strong and literate province. Our plan is grounded in 3 strategic impacts that clearly define the future we are trying to attain. Strategic impact number 1. All New Brunswickers will know about the literacy programs and services we provide. Strategic impact number 2, our adult learners will have a robust selection of programs and services to choose from on their literacy journey. And strategic impact number 3, our councils throughout the province will have the resources they need to meet the expectations of their constituents, both volunteers and learners. This means we work in collaboration with our community partners to improve access and knowledge of our services. Our learners' achievements are our achievements, and we are committed to offering the English literacy programs and services that they need for success. Laubach Literacy New Brunswick relies on its councils to provide community programs and services, empowering them with education, resources, and support. More New Brunswickers will have access to the literacy support they need. Currently, there are 7 Laubach Literacy New Brunswick affiliated councils in New Brunswick, with more than 200 volunteers and tutors. We depend on our volunteer tutors to provide free confidential tutoring to adults in the communities throughout New Brunswick. Laubach Literacy tutors are men and women of all ages and from many different backgrounds. These volunteers are committed to helping others improve their reading, writing, and basic math skills. Laubach Literacy New Brunswick asks volunteer tutors to commit to working one-to-one with a student for up to a year and for up to 4 hours per week. However, this can vary widely depending on the availability and the schedule of the learner. Sometimes a learner is only available for 2 hours a week, or they may have custody arrangements where they have a child 1 week but not the next. So we are very flexible with what the learner needs from our tutors. And we expect our tutors to be flexible as well with the needs of their learner. What is our expectation? Laubach Literacy New Brunswick provides tutors with an orientation to literacy issues, basic tutor training, access to a variety of teaching and learning materials, and access to continuing education opportunities. In return, we expect our tutors to commit to work with a student for up to 4 hours a week for 1 year, to enter the data into the tutor portal or database on a regular basis, to participate in continuing education opportunities as they arise, and above all, to maintain the total confidentiality of their student. What makes a good tutor? Well, a tutor is responsive to the needs of the individual student. They facilitate the student's learning. They respect the student and the prior knowledge the student brings to the learning experience. They are empathetic, caring, and interested in the student. They will be creative in adapting the training to suit the individual student needs. They'll be enthusiastic and willing to keep learning. They can provide constructive feedback to the learner and to the council. They welcome the student's input and is well organized for each lesson. Since its establishment in New Brunswick in 1975, Laubach Literacy has provided thousands of hours of training and tutoring by hundreds of volunteers. Laubach Literacy New Brunswick currently services a number of different target groups, including adults with low-level literacy skills, young adults preparing for employment and higher education, and new immigrants needing to improve their English reading and writing skills. As we like to say, we help people from ages 16 to 106. No matter what their goal, we can help them achieve it. We seek to help at least 200 learners each year using a combination of the one-to-one, small group, and online learning programs and services. If you have any questions at any time, please feel free to contact your local tutor coordinator. Otherwise, you can also contact us here at Laubach Literacy New Brunswick. Our Moncton number is 506-384-6371. You can reach us toll-free at 1-877-633-8899, or you can email me at info@llnb.ca. Thank you and have a great day.